do exactly what they tell us to do. Stay below the white line, the second white line right here when you're arcing. They didn't say line, they said racing surface, so you tell me how the I was on the racing surface.
Welcome into another episode of NASCAR Inside the Race presented by Consumer Cellular. Back to the oval at the Brickyard. 30 years since the first Brickyard 400 was run, and this one did not have any shortage of action.
No, not at all. I love the fact that we're back on the oval. It's still challenging. It's still strategy. It's still tough to pass, but I thought put on a heck of a show.
Kyle Larson, I know it didn't happen in May, had a great car in the Indy 500, speeding, got him behind. He comes back in NASCAR and goes to victory lane. And then really in an impressive run, right? When you look at the Fives day overall, one of the best cars. I'm not going to give him the label as the best car, but he was in the list of cars that I thought had raw speed to win the race.
I felt like he showed that at the end of the race after his last pit stop. I thought he was the best car. Although everybody else, fuel savings, a little strategy there, trying to make it happen, different places, but impressive the drive he put forward.
So it was interesting because there was a lot of conversation heading into the day what kind of race we were going to see and how the strategies were going to fall. We saw a couple teams work on what I would call a minimal strategy, fewest trips down pit road as possible. Others thought tires mattered. For the five, I think it kind of all changed right here in the race, right? You see back-to-back pit stops. They had to come in because one of the rear lug nuts cross-threaded, is what Cliff Daniels told us after the race.
Yeah, it looked like a two-tire stop, right side tire stop, and fortunately, they caught it. Showed it on TV. They worked on it for quite a few seconds to get it right. They got it right. Went ahead, put the left sides on with it, and that kind of lost their track position because they double pitted.
So then at that point, it looks to me that they kind of jump now onto, hey, we're going to pit one time here, and that'll set us up for one final pit stop somewhere in this final stage instead of stopping twice. That's what he did. Now, they chose to do this a little bit differently. They ran a little bit longer and pitted under green where they felt, I'll call it more comfortable. I'm not sure they felt good, but they felt more comfortable about their fuel load.
Yeah, they got to the point where they could race hard going forward and get themselves there. And when you looked at it, they needed to. They didn't have the track position. They were going to have to pass cars. They couldn't be in fuel save. So they waited until they got within the window. What I think was 123 that they came to pit road. That puts them on that 37 laps to finish the race. And Cliff Daniels at the end of the race said, we're not great on fuel, but we're good on fuel.
There were so many things to cover on broadcast that I think some of Kyle Larson's magnificent passes were lost. So we're going to show this. This is really from that run after the caution, reset the field. So this is lap 129, restarting around 23rd, making passes. The guy that was left, the 9 of Chase Elliott, same strategy.
Yeah, there's actually, I want to point out this. He was the third car in this strategy at this point.
Past the 9. The 5.
Yeah, the 5, Kyle Larson. The 9 was ahead of him, Chase Elliott, as was Tyler Reddick, and we'll see that come to play as we work through all these passes here.
We heard Cliff Daniels mention, and even Kyle Larson himself mentioned, being here in an Indy car kind of taught him about the timing. The cadence at Indy is very odd. 2 short chutes, 2 long straightaways. This is in the short chute. You kind of give up the entry to get the run down this long straightaway as you see him pull out. Remember, all the guys out here he's passing, like the 7, they're all saving gas. The overall pace had slowed down over a second, almost 2 seconds at one point.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those situations where he could take advantage of people that were all trying to get to the point where they could make the end of the race. Really aggressive moves on corner entry, paid off for him right along, but really late moves in a lot of places.
They all matter, but this was one of the biggest. The 45 of Reddick, the leading car on the fuel strategy. A late dive into turn 3, got pie. Tyler Reddick continues on the 99 and moves up all the way through the field.
Yeah, an impressive run, definitely an impressive run, and got himself to the point where he got all the way up to 3rd before the caution.
Yeah, so now what we're going to look at is the restart that ends up giving Kyle Larson the lead. This is actually, in my opinion, the pass for the win when he finally passes the 12. The 6 and the 12 on the front row, Brad Keselowski comes to pit road late. That allows the inside lane to move up. Now it's Larson and Blaney. Bad break for Blaney, good break for Larson. That's what the rules say, and then it comes down to a restart.
Yeah, and the choose, you don't know what to do here because if the 6 runs out of gas after he gets to pit road entry, then he stacks up that line and Blaney gets off clear. So just kind of unfortunate situation for Blaney and a fortunate one for Kyle Larson, but Kyle just drove off at this point.
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit more time later in the show and break down exactly how that restart stacked up. But with the 5 clearly ahead of the 12 and the caution comes out, and that sets the stage for the final restart, an overtime finish inside the 5 outside the 12. The difference here, they knew this was going to be the order for a whole pace lap. Kyle Larson was ready for the restart zone.
And I've started in that position. The 12 car is outside of the front row of the last restart, and I've not won one of these races yet. Kyle Larson executes a pretty good run here inside the wraparound turn 1, clear open by turn 2.
So very few are going to talk about the restart because it wasn't really the restart that it was the conversation for the finish. This race technically ended under yellow. The conversation is going to be about the overtime and the timing of the yellow. So as we see Larson exit turn 2, we're going to kind of see off in the distance the 41 right here spin around and make slight contact with the inside wall. There was contact, but not very severe.
Yeah, pretty light. I don't think an immediate caution is warranted with that contact and the fact he's driving away.
So I want to pause it here because I want to talk about that. So just remind everybody the rules. If the white flag is seen, the next flag will end the race. So the yellow or the checkered. Coming to the white, the question then becomes when the yellow should come out. I have always thought that wall contact should warrant a yellow kind of right away. Initially, I thought the 41's contact was much harder. In replay, it's very, very, very light. So I think he's driving away. And that's what we're seeing here is these tires are kind of spinning on the 41. So we're going to go a little bit further. He moves forward. The 5 is exiting turn 4. And then you're going to see the 41 pause with the 5 and the 45 on the front straightaway yet to take the white flag.
Yeah, and if we look at it, this line right here, that's kind of the blend line that gets you into pit road to kind of reference where we are. We're off of turn 4, coming towards the start-finish line, but not quite to pit road entry.
So I believe there was time here for yellow. I would have loved to see the yellow. I don't believe that the 41 is going to pull away here because there's 2 flat tires. Elton Sawyer talked to Alex Weaver on NASCAR.com. She did a nice job of specifically asking about this, and Elton said that in the tower, their goal is for the race to finish under green. So in their opinion, their assessment was that they hold the yellow. They don't need to dispatch a safety worker. There's no concern of the 41 for injury, so they're holding the yellow in the hopes that the 41 will leave the scene of the accident.
Like you, I was at this point thinking that the caution should have come out. And when you look at this and listen to what Elton had to say and play this forward, he had rolled and driven to this point. I thought it had kind of stopped with flat tires at this point. And in hindsight, sounded like he might have run out of fuel running in this situation. But after this point, if we play it forward, he does get rolling again, backs it up, goes forward. So there's still more effort here to get rolling, and you kind of see that. I guess I can buy that maybe, at this point, NASCAR still thinks he's trying to make this car move, so they haven't thrown it, because if it gets rolling, they're going to let him run the whole lap.
So, look, this happens fast. We're breaking it down in slow motion. We're pausing the tape. You don't get to make pauses when it happens in real time. My opinion is, as a race fan, I wanted to see the yellow. I wanted to see the yellow when the 41 spun. I definitely wanted to see the yellow when the 41 had 2 flat tires. We've seen enough cars with flat tires not be able to be towed away that I feel confident he wasn't going to continue. NASCAR gave us their side. I'm going to take that for face value. I'm going to believe that's what they were trying to do. My only add-in is then that's now how we have to do it. Consistently moving forward if we're going to have to wait. Now, I will say this. This is almost a Daytona or Talladega type scenario where the entire field is together.
Yes.
We stayed green for this whole time because there were no other cars passing the 41 at speed. If this happens at a Charlotte or a Texas and there are other cars around the racetrack, that has to be considered as well.
Yes, and you look at it, the other part is we're on a 50-some second lap versus Charlotte being a 30-second lap. So there's a lot more time built into this that you can get the car rolling again. Likewise, I thought we should have seen a caution, but I understand the reasoning behind why they didn't. And really, as you look at this move forward, once you get to the point where Kyle Larson gets to the middle of 1 and 2, you've got to put the caution out, because now you've got cars the ability to slow down before they get to the point of the 41.
Caution comes out. The 5 is the winner. Another thing, you kind of lose track of where the 41 was sitting. I think this pays it off the best. There's zero chance you can race past the 41 sitting right there on the white line. The caution had to come out. I wish it would have been a little earlier. I'll even go far as to say, other than fuel, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, anything can happen, but I think the 5 had this race in control.
Yeah, he had driven from 23rd to to 3rd, and then got control of it when Brad pulled off. I think we could do multiple restarts as long as nobody runs out of fuel. Kyle Larson goes to victory lane.
Well, a lot was made of the green-white checker and the late yellow, but that kind of overshadowed the great battle at the front we had with 3 completely different strategies. We'll break them down next. Join host Kyle Petty for part 2 of the NASCAR Insiders Roundtable series presented by Goodyear. As KP chats with team owners Kelly Earnhardt Miller, Jordan Wood Hicks, driver Carson Kvapil, and NASCAR's Joey Denowitz about the future of NASCAR talent, team ownership, and of course, its fans. Watch the NASCAR Insiders Roundtable presented by Goodyear on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Hey race fans, Corey the Joy here. Join Ryan Flores and myself for Stacking Pennies each week. I'll break down my race and explain what happened right out of my windshield.
Plus, we award the Dogs of the Week for the best pit crews and go in-depth on all the money stops, pit road mistakes, and penalties.
And we've got a ton of guests. We have SVG stopping by. We had Ricky Stenhouse after he punched Kyle Busch in the face. We've had Bubba. We've had all sorts of guys in here in the Nonsense Garage, so you do not want to miss it. Check us out on Sirius XM Channel 90, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcast. Each and every week, Stacking Pennies. That's what's up.
Kyle Larson went to victory lane, and we talked a lot about the overtime finish. But before we got that caution that drove us to overtime, we had a battle with Brad Keselowski on fumes. The 12 of Ryan Blaney kind of stuck behind him. Behind him was the 5. Tyler Reddick leading or trying to run the 5 and those guys down. There was a lot going on the racetrack. Yeah,
it definitely was. Three different strategies playing out at this point, and really all coming to the same point. Brad Keselowski doing a great job saving fuel to get there. Tyler Reddick and the eventual race winner, Kyle Larson, basically on the same strategy for the same reason, 2 different places, but it put them forward here.
Well, if you want to know why crew chiefs have headaches and why I had a headache after this race, is look at this chaos race. I mean, we normally talk about a single pit stop or a single option. Where do you want to start? I mean, look at this entire Brickyard 400. We have the 45 car, we have the 12 car, the yellow line, the 6 of Brad Keselowski, and they're all over the place. There are pit stops, there are strategy calls, there are different things. What's obvious to me, though, is I think we can start with the 6 of Brad Keselowski, the green line, right? He is trending, green flag pit stop, and he goes down, which is normal, flat, and then down again. And that's because this is him serving a penalty after a pit road acceleration lane infraction.
Yeah, I really don't agree with it. So I think we should dig deeper into it and listen to audio that these two have got.
We'll start with the 6 of Brad Keselowski.
That's not what their damn email said. Their email said as long as you weren't in the racing line, and I was not in the racing line. Read the damn email 20 times. That's not what it says. You can swing wide between the white lines. So we're going to send another message. We're working on it now. It explicitly says you can go where you went, so we're trying to get some information. It says you may swing wide and to stay on the apron. Above the outside white line is considered the racing surface, so that is not what the email reads. So, sorry about this, guys. That's obviously my fault at the end of the day. I've been racing here for 13 years. I know when you've been able to run out like that. Get an email the night before saying you can run out like that and then get a penalty for it. I don't even know what to say about that.
Obviously upset. Let's listen to the 9 of Chase Elliott.
The verbiage is you don't have to stay below the line in the center of the corner. Yeah, I mean, that's not right. I mean, I did exactly what the sheet said to do. Their sheet says you can use the track. The 2 officials are saying you went above the white line between turns 1 and 2 when you're arcing your corner. Yeah, they gave us confirmation you could do that. I mean, what the Did they sit out the sheet yesterday and do exactly what they tell us to do? Stay below the white line, the second white line right here when you're arcing. They didn't say line. They said racing surface. So you tell me how the I was on the racing surface.
Okay, a lot to unpack. Let's start with the communication. They both reference an email, a sheet, a communication. Over the weekend, NASCAR communicated to the team some more verbiage about how to leave the racetrack. Mike Ford from NASCAR tweeted this during, I think actually after the race. Exiting pit road, returning to the track when exiting the pits. Vehicle must use the acceleration lane through the exit of turn 2. Check your mirrors, come up on the racetrack. Makes sense. That's how it's been forever.
Yep.
Second line, which is where it gets very confusing for me. You may swing wide beyond the white line on the acceleration lane between turns 1 and 2, stay off the racing surface. And then they talk about falling in line behind continuous cars. That would be for under yellow flag conditions.
This to me is the verbiage that we've always raced by.
This doesn't
that basically
seem new.
You've got to be below the grass through turns 1, below the grass through turn 2, and you can arc out in the middle of that. Just don't get out in the racing lane.
So let's take a look at the 6. Here's the penalty they called on the 6. You see the grass at the top of your screen. You're going to have the same issue below. Grass, you have to go below. Here's the 6 car. So I'm going to zoom in. That's the 6, splitting this white line. This doesn't even jump out to me as egregious. We've been coming to the Brickyard for a long time. That looks very normal for pit road exit for me.
The 9 car as well, this is an interesting one to look at because the 9 cleared the grass, big arc like you always do, trying to make speed on this flat area. He's outside of that second white line, but you were told you could go past the white line on the acceleration lane.
And there are 3 white lines. I got 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines. Like, it's just not clear enough which line they're talking about. And if this is the line they're trying to refer, we heard NASCAR said you couldn't go above the lane. That's, quote, on the racing surface. Well, then my issue is if it goes forward, and I'm not trying to pick on Kyle Larson, I'm just going to use it because we're in the same video. Well, it's not as bad, but he's either above or he's not. And he's above. And I'm confident that if we watch pit exit for this entire pit cycle, many drivers come in contact with or barely above the white line. Now, I don't think NASCAR's making this up. The 9 was probably the highest. The 6 was high as well. But I don't believe the 9 or the 6 were outside of what we've seen at the Brickyard forever.
No. And if we go back to 2020, the last time we raced in this service, you're going to see that green flag pit cycles, guys are out that wide. I think let's show one here. This is Joey Logano in 2020. This is a normal pit exit. This is what you and I have known for multiple years as we've raced at the Brickyard.
And why I think that's okay is because it's either one or the other. You have to use the entire acceleration lane, which would be defined by, if we go back to the video here, if you want to define the acceleration lane with these 2 lines, because that's the line, then I'm okay. Whatever, that's fine. If you want to make this line right here out of bounds, I'm even okay with that. But that communication from NASCAR was way too ambiguous and not defined to start calling penalties about a random white line or the racing surface. How do you define the racing surface?
So at this point, instead of saying stay off the racing surface, that should say stay below the white line at the bottom of the racetrack. You only get 1. Make it clear, because this to me was not clear. This was, I would have done the same thing, expected that the 9 and 6 were fair play. That's what we've done all along.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't like the penalties. I understand why the drivers were upset. Now on the counter, we have an upset driver, and I know why he's upset, and I would be upset because it's an awful break.
Yes.
It's a bad break for Ryan Blaney. But this restart is by the rules. So field comes around, they choose, inside and outside. Mm-hmm. Once the choose is established, if any driver removes himself from position, the lane moves up. 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars, it doesn't matter. You do not re-choose.
It's no different than the start of the race. Penalty cars go back, the line moves up. When you think about that, it's anytime somebody, after the choose and we're double file, if somebody pulls off, that line moves forward. And that's, I know is a bad break for Ryan Blaney. It's just one of those things. If Brad stays out here, it's a great break for Ryan Blaney because Brad doesn't accelerate. So it's just one of those situations. It's how the rule book's written. Brad pulls off, the 5-car roll, the whole inside lane comes forward 1. It's a great break for Kyle Larson. It's a tough break for Ryan Blaney. That's the way the rule book's written.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but it just looks weird because it happens the last minute. Once again, I know why Ryan's mad. I'd be mad because that bad break. It was funny in the post-race because he said, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be mad about. I'm just mad, which I appreciated. I would be furious. It's the Brickyard 400.
He's mad because he thought he could win a Brickyard, and he didn't.
Right. So that was basically how we showed how the 6 got to where they were, how the 12 got to where they were. The other one, and it seems like a relatively insignificant pass because it's all the way back around 13th. But what matters is this is Kyle Larson, good on fuel load, running down Tyler Reddick, the other car good on fuel load in front of him, while the rest of the field kind of saves gas. Look at this late move. The 45 knows he's trying to block, and he just couldn't get low enough to defend. Kyle Larson jumps through. That ends up being the pass that cycled the 5 in front of the 45.
Yeah, that's your 1-2 finishers there, and they were the other way around coming back through the field. Kyle Larson really was impressive how much speed he could roll into the corners with these late moves and still wrap the bottom.
Well, it's always fun when you race at the historic Brickyard. It's going to be history as well when NASCAR returns from the Olympics and head to Richmond. We'll explain next.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week right here at Around the Track. Whether you are going to the racetrack or watching from home, we get you ready for all things national and regional level.
And we'll tell you who and what to watch for each week. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend at the racetrack, and Erica will help you place your bets to win some easy money.
Be sure to check out Around the Track every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
History for NASCAR, we have seen it at the All-Star race, prime and option tires, but now the first time ever in a points-paying race, we're going to see prime and option tires at Richmond.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. We saw it at North Wilkesboro, a repave, not a lot of tire degradation, not a lot of lap time fall off. Now we're going to Richmond, a place that we 2-stop or 3-stop green flag cycles. How's this all going to work out with an option tire, and how much does the lap time fall off?
All right, before we dig into the race, let's just clean up the details. Regular tire will look at it always does with the yellow Goodyear on the side. The option tire will have a red Goodyear on the side. That's how you can tell them apart. You also can't mix and match. All 4 must be prime or all 4 must be option. Teams will be given one set of the option, which you would assume will be a faster tire, softer tire that slows down more for practice. Everyone has to qualify on the prime tires. Then you get into the race, and that's when it all comes apart.
It does. And you look at it, really, if I look at the tire counts, I think they're short a set or two. So it's going to make it kind of stressful for these guys.
All right, so tire counts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of prime tires.
Yes, and then you've got 2 sets of the option.
If we're talking strategy, I could start, because I know I have to start on a set of tires, and I know I'm going to start on a set of primes. That seems to be just the simplest decision.
As you look at this, last year we stopped at 41 because there was a caution.
All right, well then I'm just going to assume we're running pretty good. We don't want to burn up our options, so I'm going to burn a second set of primes at 41.
And at the stage end, you're going to have to put another set on.
Todd, you're burning a lot of tires up, buddy. We just finished stage 1, and we already have our third set on.
We go from 70 to 230, about 155 green flag laps. Maybe we split that in half. That's going to be 78 laps on a set, but you might have to think about splitting that in half.
Well, math would say to do it in thirds.
Well, if you do it in thirds,
math would say to do it in thirds.
50, 50, 50.
Okay, that's not going to work. I can't be using that many tires. So now I'm going to split this one in half.
Yeah. And that's where it goes straightforward from here. At this, now we can split this last one in thirds and have sets left. We'll come in. This is a little bit longer run.
Okay.
But.
All right, so you're going to save your back-to-back option tires.
And then I'm sitting at the end of the race, and I've got a set left if there's a caution with 10 to go, because I'm going to want them.
All right, I'm going to give you one more scenario.
Under green, I think this works, but if you have a caution at lap 35, you'll go a lap down staying out of tires.
Well, unless everyone stays out. You don't think I can get everybody to listen? I don't either. Let's just say it runs green. Okay, it runs green. But now here's the other thing. So now, let's say we're going to do this one on, in thirds as well. I think this one right here, I'm going to use this one. I think that one matters because if I'm running well, that's my plan. If I'm not running well and I want to catch up,
yeah,
I can do that also, right? Because now I have a defined distance, or maybe there's a yellow there. Mm-hmm. So, on that car, I'm on the peripheral, maybe I'm a lap down. Maybe I'm racing for the free pass. Forget even racing for the win. Maybe I got a lap down early and I have to get the free pass. I need to make my lap up now. Mm-hmm. So I put a set of the option tires on in stage 2.
And the piece that may cause that is, what if the yellow flag comes right here with 15 to go? Yeah. Then I think
I'm Bubba Wallace. I need those points. I'm just outside the points window. I'm trying to make it happen. Or I'm Ross Chastain trying to protect. Or I'm another driver that we mentioned that maybe you're a lap down. Maybe you've had a little trouble. You had a flat earlier. Something happened. That's how you overcome it.
I think there's different places where you could see these reds come into play. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Stage 1, I'd still say it. The caution that comes right here is going to cause nightmares for strategy.
Well, I will say this. This is what I know I need. When I get to the end of the day, I want these sitting in my box. I want, for sure, a set of options. And I would love to have a set of primes in the last 50 laps, because if I can stay on the lead lap and I can stay inside the top 10 or 12, I think the results of Richmond could change dramatically on the final pit cycle.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I want those both sitting in my box after I've made what I think is my last stop with this set of reds.
So I think you and I both agree it's going to look something like this, and then you have, I'm going to put these all in a big pile because I don't know where they're going to go, but you're going to have to basically run this last 100 and it says 170, but it's really 165 laps with cautions. You're going to have to run 165 laps with a couple sets of options and one set of prime tires.
Yeah, and if you look at it, maybe you end up putting that set of primes on, say at 75 laps into this run, and then split 35-35 to get yourself to the end. And we'll see where it plays out. It's going to be fun, and there'll be a lot of work done on this in the next 2 weeks.
Well, I'm ready to go to Richmond. I'm not sure I'm ready for the 2-week break, but as a race fan, I know you get 2 weeks off. You get to catch up and watch the Olympics, but don't worry, there will be NASCAR Inside the Race Best of editions each week released on NASCAR's YouTube channel.